here's what I think. It is brilliant to wear a mask and wash your hands. And that science hasn't changed because it's that basic. It's like drinking water, eating food, right? We didn't evolve into past needing to put nutrients in our body. It doesn't mean we are stupid. It means, actually, I did an episode on my podcast last year about how Florence Nightingale invented ventilation systems. And we think of her, you know, the way that culture has treated women who like changed the world. We think of her as this nice nurse who pet your hand and gave you cubes of cheese. Like, no, she invented ventilation. She was one of the reasons that lives were saved during pandemics. It was all about ventilating rooms and taking care of people outside. So before you can find a vaccine for whatever virus is spreading, whatever pandemic is happening, the only thing you can do is wash your hands and wear a mask and be ventilated and stay away from people who may be carrying this airborne virus, and quarantine. It doesn't mean we haven't come that far. In fact, what ended up saving us was because we have come so far in science, we immediately had a vaccine available with the mRNA technology that scientists have been working on for 20 years. Because this has something to do with the SARS virus. And all. They've been working on this, anticipating that these things will mutate and things will happen like COVID. So we have this incredible vaccine for it. It is not fair to say, why didn't science come up with something better than wearing a mask and washing your hands? Well, they did. It's the vaccine. It's a vaccine that would never have been able to be invented in 1918. We have come a long way. But yes, some basics will always be true. Airborne viruses, the best thing to do is wear a mask and quarantine and ventilate. Like, it just like, he could have made a bit about that. He could have done a whole bit about how we think of Florence Nightingale and she was actually this badass and like, you know, it's just like, it's so myopic. Hang on, I just heard this crazy noise that sounded like a gremlin hatching, but it was wax on my candle falling to the table, and I need to blow this candle out. Hang on. And this is what I mean by when we let these like people with like no life perspective, like I don't think Jon Stewart as a straight white man is going to sit around going, I wonder if I've been sold, because I spent a lot of this year thinking about, I wonder how many things in history were actually done by women that we don't know about. So I'll go look. And I went, I have a feeling that I don't know anything about Florence Nightingale. So I looked and I made an interesting podcast episode about it. He's not doing that. Right? And I'm not saying all white straight men, but I'm just saying, like, this is the problem with, we pick someone and exalt them to this status because they hosted a funny political comedy show, and they don't have a lot of nuance and they don't have a lot of other perspectives. And so this was his whole take on Colbert.
I think we owe a great debt of gratitude to science. Science has in many ways helped ease the suffering of this pandemic, which was more than likely caused by science.
So that statement right there is what we would call the thesis of his whole appearance. That he had a thought, oh my God, if scientists were indeed trying to create a coronavirus in a lab for the sake of then learning how to create a vaccine for it, and it leaked, holy shit, science fucked us, even though science saves us. I get that point. It's mildly interesting. It's clever, but it's certainly not its very first thought. Do we need to make time for that on a late night show and have someone say that without any other nuance? Like, as a comedian, I know exactly what he's doing. I have based entire bits on this little clever thought I thought was so clever. But then you have to steer the ship, John. You have to then say, if the lab created this virus in order to find a vaccine for it, and it leaked, holy shit, we just had the most unlucky year of our life. Is there something in the cosmos going on? Like, go that route. Now, I know that Donald Trump said in 2020 it's a China virus, and he tried to push this conspiracy that they created it in a lab to weaponize. And many people have said this was not man-made. It was not a bioweapon. But then President Biden has said, look, if there's a, China then got very secretive and strange about everything related to the first outbreak of coronavirus. I mean, it's a communist country. It's a secretive country. I'll give you my real life China story. I was asked to do a comedy show, a headlining set for a weekend in China. Ironically, it would have been, I think it would have been fall 2019. And my agent had contacted me at the beginning of the year. I swear to God, it might have even been for November. And I was like, he's like, you'd be going to China by yourself. And he's like, oh, but they fly you like this amazing airline first class. I'm like, that part sounds fun. But the rest of it was like, I have to write out word for word my set so the government can approve it. And if I go off script by, they weren't like, it wasn't like they were like, you said my mother, and then in that other joke you said mom, go to jail. But they were like, if you make fun of their government, if you make fun of communism, if you say anything that will like be too feminist, you will, like, they'll stop the show and you'll be interrogated. And I was like, yeah, that part, not so fun. It's nothing to do with the people of China, the government of China. I don't, as a woman, want to go by myself and fuck with that as a comedian. You can't tell me not to say something, not because I'm like, you can't tell me what to say, but I'll get so worried about saying something wrong that I'll fucking blurt it out on stage because we're idiots. That's what we do.